I moved into my new apartment 2 weeks ago. It's nothing fancy, just a small one-bedroom place in the city. But it's mine. The place had a charm that I found quite endearing. The only thing that stood out was the bathroom mirror. It was old, definitely not part of the modern design. The glass had this slightly warped look, like the reflection didn't sit quite right. I figured the previous tenant left it behind, so I didn't think much of it. I should have, because last night I realized the person in the mirror isn't me. The mirror had an ornate, antique frame that seemed out of place in the otherwise modern bathroom. But then I noticed subtle differences. The way the reflection moved, the expression on its face. It was like looking at a stranger who knew all my secrets. I tried to ignore it, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. I started avoiding the bathroom at night. Now I can't shake the feeling that something is terribly wrong. The mirror seems to be waiting for me, and I'm afraid of what I might see next. It started subtly. I'd glance at my reflection while brushing my teeth, and for a split second it seemed like my movements were slightly off. A delay, so small it felt like my mind was playing tricks on me, and then it got worse. 2 nights ago, as I was getting ready for bed, I turned off the bathroom light and walked towards my room. Out of habit, I glanced back at the mirror, and I saw my reflection still standing there. It wasn't delayed. It was watching me. The next day, I noticed shadows moving in the corner of my eye, but when I turned, nothing was there. Last night I heard whispers, faint and unintelligible, coming from the dark corners of my room. I'm starting to feel like I'm not alone, even when I know I am. Last night I decided to test it. I stood in front of the mirror and moved slowly, raising my right hand, tilting my head, and everything seemed normal at first. Then I frowned, so did the reflection. I smiled, so did the reflection, but then it kept smiling. Even after my own face went back to normal, the reflection was still smiling. A slow, unsettling grin stretching across its face. I stumbled back, slamming the bathroom door shut. I didn't sleep that night. The reflection's grin haunted me. I could feel its eyes on me, even with the lights off. I tried to convince myself it was just my imagination, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw that smile. I could hear faint whispers, like it was calling me back. My heart raced and I felt a cold sweat. I knew I had to face it again, but the fear was paralyzing. This morning I convinced myself it was just exhaustion, a trick of the mind. But when I went back into the bathroom, the mirror was different. The glass looked thinner, almost like there was space behind it. I leaned in closer, trying to understand what was happening, and then I saw it. Fingertips from the inside of the mirror, pressing against the glass. Like something was trying to push through. I felt a chill run down my spine. I ran out of the bathroom, heart pounding. I spent the entire day out of my apartment, sitting in a coffee shop, trying to rationalize what I saw. But I had to go home eventually, and when I did, the apartment felt wrong, heavy, silent, watching. I walked past the bathroom, keeping my eyes forward, but then I heard it, my voice, whispering from the mirror, "Let me out!" I turned, my heart slamming against my ribs. The mirror was fogged over, and in the condensation a handprint was forming from the inside. The reflection spoke again, louder this time. "Let me out!" I stumbled back, my mind racing. Was I losing it, or was something trapped in there? The handprint pressed harder, the glass creaking. I had to decide, face it or flee. And then the mirror shattered. Silence. I was alone again. Or was I? I should have run. Instead, I stepped closer. The mirror started to ripple like water disturbed by a pebble. And then I saw myself. Not a reflection. Another me. Standing on the other side, staring at me with wide, hungry eyes. Then it reached out. And so did I. I don't know why, I didn't mean to, but the moment our fingertips touched, everything flipped. I gasped and stumbled backward. I was still in my bathroom. The mirror looked normal again. No ripples, no handprints. Had I imagined it? I turned to leave, but then I saw it. My reflection, it didn't move. It just stood there, staring at me. And then, with a slow, deliberate motion, it raised its hand and knocked on the glass from the other side. And that's when I realized I wasn't the one who made it out. The end. The end. Or so I thought. But my story didn't end there. It began again in a place that defies reality. When I opened my eyes, I was no longer in my bathroom. I found myself in a distorted version of my apartment. Everything was mirrored and twisted. The air was cold and the silence was deafening. I called out, but my voice seemed to be swallowed by the void. I wandered through the rooms, each one more unsettling than the last. That's when I saw them. Other people. Their eyes hollow, their faces filled with despair. They were like me, trapped on this side of the mirror. One of them, a young woman with tear-streaked cheeks, reached out to me. Her touch was cold, but her grip was strong. "You're new," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "You made the mistake, didn't you?" I nodded, my throat tight with fear. "How do we get out?" She shook her head. "We don't. We try to survive. But beware. The reflections, they're not us. They're something else. They feed on our despair." Panic surged through me. I had to find a way out, a way back to my world. I stumbled through the mirrored corridors, my heart pounding in my chest. The reflections watched me, their eyes filled with a malevolent hunger. And then I saw it, a faint glow, a sliver of hope. I ran towards it, desperate for escape. But as I reached out, the glow vanished, replaced by the cold, mocking laughter of the reflections. Trapped, with no way out. The mirror world was my new reality, and the reflections, they were my new tormentors. The end. For now. Our